Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more news and politics from around the world. This time for Saturday, the 16th of November 2024. We are starting off with a story from ProPublica. Get that properly up there. Anyway, the story reads, Biden asked Microsoft to raise the bar on cybersecurity. He may have just helped create an illegal monopoly. So let's see what's going on here, shall we? Highlights. Raising the bar. Biden asked tech companies to raise the bar on cybersecurity, so Microsoft offered the government free upgrades and the consultants to install them. Competitive advantage. While the plan helped the government bolster cybersecurity, it also helped Microsoft tighten its grip on federal business and freeze out its competitors. And working for nothing. Legal and contracting experts say the deals never should have come to pass, and they sidestep or even possibly violate federal procurement and antitrust laws. So yeah, this was in the summer of 2021. Some of the CEOs of the nation's biggest tech companies to the White House. Series of cyber attacks linked to Russia, China, and Iran had left the government reeling, and the administration had asked the heads of Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, and Google, and others to offer concrete commitments to help the U.S. bolster its defense. You have the power, the capacity, and the responsibility, I believe, to raise the bar on cybersecurity. Microsoft had more to prove than most. Its own security lapses had contributed to some of the incursions that had prompted the summit in the first place, such as the so-called SolarWinds attack, in which Russian state-sponsored hackers stole sensitive data from federal agencies, including the National Nuclear Security Administration. Following the discovery of that breach, some members of Congress said that the company should provide better cybersecurity for its customers. Others went further. Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat who chairs the Senate's Finance Committee, called on the government to reevaluate its dependence on Microsoft before awarding it any more contracts. So yeah, just quick, that hey, cybersecurity ain't been great. We want to beef it up. And apparently Microsoft's worked their way in to be the main company on that, almost blocking others out of the way. Now, from inequality.org. In Baku at the latest global confab on climate change, hand-wringing abounds, and that suits our world's wealthiest just fine. The world desperately needs to pull the plug on fossil fuels, so agree most of the social delegates from nearly 200 nations who have gathered this month by the Caspian Sea for the 29th Annual Global Conference of the Parties on Climate Change, COP29 for short, in Azerbaijan's capital city, Baku. But not all the estimated 70,000 attendees at this year's COP are practicing what they should be preaching. Private jet arrivals at Baku's international airport, news reporters notes, have just doubled. What makes that such a big deal? Practically nothing symbolizes wanton disregard for our Earth's environment more dramatically than private jet travel. A corporate executive taking a single long haul private jet flight points out the Travel Smart campaign's Denise Auclair will burn more CO2 than several normal people will do in an entire year. Researchers at Oxfam have just gone through the flight records of 23 global billionaires. Those airborne souls averaged 184 private jet flights, each over a recent single year. They each essentially circumnavigated the globe 10 times over. Their flights averaged 2,074 tons of carbon emissions, an outlay an average person globally would take 300 years to emit. Tongue twists. Extravagances like private jets help explain why global carbon emissions last year expanded by 1.3%. To get climate anywhere near under control, UN Secretary Antonio Guterres noted on the eve of this month's COP29 extravaganza, the world's nations ought to be reducing carbon emissions by at least 9% a year. The world is still underestimating climate risks, Guterres added. It's absolutely essential to reduce emissions drastically now. And it's just not going to happen because there's too many rich jackasses who don't care. And that reducing will only unfold, the UN Secretary General emphasized in his COP29 opening remarks, if the world's nations address the pivotal contribution to climate catastrophe that our world's wealthiest are making. The rich cause the problem. As Guterres explained, the poor pay the highest price. As is always the case. The rich fuck everything up, and it's always the poor who suffer the most. And there is no difference in the way climate change happens. The rich fuck everything up, and the poor suffer the most. Let's go on here to a discussion. This is from the Ask Science Reddit, and it is other events similar to the Messinian salinity crisis. The Mediterranean basin mostly dried out and later reflooded. When dry, it would have formed an enormous basin reaching far below sea level. Are there other cases in the geologic record when we suspect something similar happened to form large dry basins below sea level? Are any suspected to have been bigger in extent? So yeah, the idea is that we know in history during the Earth's geologic changes, there was a moment when the Mediterranean Sea essentially dried out and was dry for a while. And it was well beyond sea level. And this is when the sea level, of course, was lower, because normally the oceans just travel between the rocks of Gibraltar into the Mediterranean. It would later reflood when sea levels rose again. But reply, we see somewhat analogous, though not exactly contemporaneous events in many of the Paratethnian basins, specifically in the Black and Caspian Seas. At least in terms of large base level drops, such that surface of these lakes were likely at least several hundred meters below modern sea level, though neither are characterized by thick evaporates like what is seen in the Mediterranean. The examples in the Black and Caspian Seas are broadly similar to the Mediterranean, as all of those effectively reflect remnant ocean basins that were intermittently, or pretty regularly in the case of the Mediterranean, connected to the global ocean and experienced base level falls during periods of isolation. Though the Black and Caspian Seas also experienced high stands during periods of isolation. In a more general sense, when considering endorheic basins, we know that they can be characterized by relatively extreme base level variations. So while the Messinian is an extreme example and a somewhat strange one as well, given the drivers that pushed the Mediterranean into being temporarily endorheic, extreme base level variations, including extreme drops, are not really unexpected in large, internally drained systems. So it is possible that Lake Titicaca will rise and flood La Paz. Yeah, I'm curious whether any of the huge halide deposits that cause diaporism were originally deposited by similar gigantic scale evaporative events in the deep past, having previous arrangements of continents. During previous arrangements of continents. I've read that the salt dome valleys of Utah, such as the Moab, started out with Pennsylvanian salt. Back then, the oceans were shaped very differently, but it's also very much on the continental landmass. So I guess not. I'm guessing you're maybe thinking of evaporates in the Paradox Basin. These largely reflect deposit. Deposition in a basin outboard of the ancestral Rocky Mountains, and is basically linked to low stands in global sea level, e.g. Trudgel 2011. There are more spatially limited but still pretty thick evaporates in the southwestern U.S. were non-marine, relatively mostly to desiccation of lakes formed in rift basins. But both of these were forming broadly on continental lithosphere, not on the remnant ocean basin. Okay. Yeah. And you also got to remember, many of your lakes are not necessarily situated in the same position. I don't know when the this Messinian salinity issue happened in history, but you're pretty much going to guarantee it's before modern man, because you're talking about the sinking of sea levels so that the entire Mediterranean went dry for a bit. Hmm. But yeah, I would imagine it's more during the over periods of time when the the actual tectonic plates are shifting around, changing the shape of the land masses, and thus the positions of different things like what would be lake beds and everything. There are a few notable exceptions of extensive and thick salt evaporite deposits that later were deformed into salt domes, pinnacles, piercements, pillows, and the like. These can be found in the Gulf of Mexico along the margins of eastern South America, along with the margins of West Africa and in places such as the East Texas Basin. Yeah, remember, there's places where ocean water was that you wouldn't think. There's a region in the U.S. that spread from like Texas, Louisiana, and it went up through the plains. Um, and we're talking it exiting around or reconnecting like around. I'm not sure where it reconnected with the oceans at. But it was a shallow sea that spread across the entire south to north of the U.S. And so you would have sea life that swam through that. And that's why you can find a number of fossils in some of the plain states because they were sea life that lived there for a great period of time because there was the I want to say it was called the Great Inner Sea or something. But anyway, yeah. But let's go on to the next here. We have some data graphs. Age of the sexiest man versus age of the sexiest woman. And the dotted lines are the trajectory of men's ages over time from the sexiest of the sexiest men, and while the dots are the actual ages for the years. So, and then blue dotted line is women, and the blue dots are the actual ages over time. You can see how much there is an much more open ideation of older men being sexy rather than older women. The age overall line is going up for men, just around 40, going over 40, while women, it was originally about 28, 27, something like that, and they've dropped down to about 25. Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous. And these are charts that they put the data together from Sexiest Men of the Year, People Magazine, Sexiest Women for Him magazine. So yeah. But another chart on the same type of subject here. We're looking at just the women this time, and we see the sexiest women the year and their ages. Again, we see that this blue line has been dropping from about 27 years of age to just around 25. Yeah, and the women we see change. 1995, Claudia Schiffer, she was just 25-year-old. Next year, Gillian Anderson, she was 28. Terry Hatcher the next year, she was 32. Jenny McCarthy the next year, 26. Sarah Michelle Gellar the next year, she was 22. And remember, this is still the FHM's 100 sexiest women. And it shows them for each year. Jennifer Lopez in 2000, she was 31, 32 maybe. Anna Kournikova, yeah, she was 22 in 2002. And then we see kind of the standout here, Halle Berry, 37 years of age in 2003. And you know what? She still looks damn good for her age. But Britney Spears, Kelly Brook, Keira Knightley, Jessica Alba, Megan Fox, Cheryl Cole, Rosie Huntington Whitley, or Whiteley, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Talisa Kontostavlos, Mila Kunis. Fucking Mila Kunis sometimes is just. Jennifer Lawrence, Michelle Keegan, Margot Robbie, and Gal Gadot. Alright, next chart. Suicide rates among young people. Reported annual death rate from suicide per 100,000 people. Suicide deaths are underreported in many countries due to social stigma and cultural or legal concerns. The data has not been adjusted for underreporting, and comparisons may be affected by differences or differences in measurement. Sorry. Now, the blue line is your 15 to 19-year-old. There's a purple line, 20 to 24, and then there's a dark, almost navy blue line, 25 to 29. The 20s are almost in check. They barely differentiate any. But yeah, you can see from 95 on, they slowly droop. They go down. 2010 looks good. Then what do we have? COVID. COVID-19. And it caused that bump. It kind of dropped back down after things settled down, but we're seeing it slowly tick up again. In France, young teens, 20, 24, 25, 29, all of them. The teens are staying pretty steady, but they've dropped a little bit, and the others have dropped pretty well. In Japan, teens have stayed pretty steady, but have went up a little. Your people in your 20s, it's kind of a ragged shape, but it's a weird effect because it's like there was a rise with that jagged up and down, but then it went into a slide, and then of course COVID hit and it's going back up. So in Japan, it seems like COVID was actually a good thing. It gave, I guess, time for families to be together and stuff. Australia, it was horrible in the late 90s, but then it started to go down and it settled out. Here's COVID. But yeah, it's back to kind of just going down. Canada, it was up here, but all of them have been slowly dropping with the kind of ragged effect. Argentina, it goes up, 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 and then evens out, goes ragged. About 2002 or so, yeah. It kind of settles, and it's ragged a bit, but it's more or less level. Uh, Germany, there are ups and downs a little bit, but for the most part, it's all been going down since 95. Russia, yeah, you got to remember why it's so high. When they started out, the Soviet Union died in 91. So the country is still recovering. It goes out, there's a bit of a dip there in 97 or so, but it comes back up, and then right around here, 2002, things start settling down, and the death rates just drop and drop and drop and drop. So yeah. Now, lastly, we have Sweden, and it's just been kind of level, but it has ups and downs, but for the most part, it's a pretty level setup there. Um, the numbers you see on the left sides of the charts, you see the dates at the bottom. On the left sides is per 100,000. So 15 per 100,000, 10 per 100,000. Some of them you see higher or lower. Argentina. Argentina. It starts at 10, where there's a lot of them it's 15 or 20. So it's not as bad necessarily. Russia's pretty bad off though. After USSR had died, yeah, you saw a lot, 40, 42 per 100,000. it was just a miserable situation. But in the US, yeah, and it's going up. You know, you had COVID right here, it started going down and was dipping, but now it's heading back up. And I'm sure if the new data was added with Trump's win, it'll go up further. But yeah. Now let's look at some images from history. We have an image of a very young samurai in full actual samurai armor from Japan in 1912. So that's what they would actually look like. Here we have a blood-stained Song for Peace sheet found in Yitzhak Rabin's pocket after he was assassinated by right-wing extremists in Tel Aviv in 1995. And here's an image of Fidel Castro playing basketball in Cuba around 1960. Yeah, I try to put these images out because I want to show that not necessarily. I know a lot of people want to think, oh, these bad people, they must be doing bad things all the time. No, what the scary thing is, most of them are just like me or you. They like to participate doing things. I think early in the year, or maybe last year, I showed an image of Hitler taking a nap. These are people just like you and I. As much as we don't like to hear it, we need to recognize that humans are capable of so much evil, no matter. But in the end, they're still very faulty people. Yeah, I just wanted to show that with Castro. I'm not trying to whitewash their crimes or actions or anything like that. I'm just trying to show that criminals could be the person you see at the grocery store, you see on the bus, because you don't know how bad they really are. You just don't know. Here we go. NASA satellites reveal an abrupt drop in global freshwater levels. International team of scientists using observations from NASA German satellites found evidence that the Earth's total amount of fresh water dropped abruptly starting in May 2014 and has remained low ever since. Reporting in surveys in geophysics, the researchers suggested the shift could indicate Earth's continents have entered a persistently drier phase. From 2015 through 2023, satellite measurements showed that the average amount of fresh water stored on land, that includes liquid surface water like in lakes and rivers, plus water in aquifers underground, was 290 cubic miles lower than the average levels from 2002 through 2014, said Matt Rodell, one of the study authors and a hydrologist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. That's 2.5 times the volume of Lake Erie lost. So yeah, Things are getting hotter. It's getting worse climate-wise. And yeah, we are also losing water. Fresh water. Let's look at some actual stories here. From the AP, bullet strikes a Southwest Airlines plane without injuries at the Dallas airport. Yeah, just a day or so after the story I read where the Spirit Airlines plane was flying over Jamaica. What was it? Was it Jamaica? And got hit by bullets. Yeah. Just kind of a weird coincidence on that one. From ABC 15 Arizona, $103,500 reward for information on the death of a Mexican gray wolf near Flagstaff. The wolf was being tracked for research purposes and had been named Hope by local school students. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service says the federally protected Mexican gray wolf, known as Hope, was found dead in the vicinity of Forest Service Road 2058 and East Spring Valley Road on November the 7th. Details on how the wolf died have not been released. However, several organizations have come together to offer a reward for additional information. Killing a Mexican wolf is a violation of state law and Federal Endangered Species Act that can result in criminal penalties of up to $50,000 and or more than 1 year in jail and or a civil penalty of up to $25,000. A release from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said. So yeah, you could end up with a year in jail and having to pay $75,000. DNA shows Hope came from the Tudilhil pack in the Mexican wolf experimental population area. Also from the AP, American school superintendent mandates students watch announcement of new religious department. Oklahoma's education superintendent has sent an email to public school superintendents requiring them to show students his video announcement of a new Department of Religious Freedom and Patriotism within the State Department of Education. Ryan Walters, a Republican, announced the new office on Wednesday and on Thursday sent the email to school superintendents statewide. In one of the first steps of the newly created department, we are requiring all of Oklahoma schools to play the attached video to all kids that are enrolled, according to the email. Districts were also told to send the video to all parents of students. In the video, Walters says religious liberty has been attacked and patriotism... Oh, fuck off. Fuck off. You're the dumbass who wanted to put the 10 Commandments in the classroom. No, not that one. Not the 10 Commandments. You wanted the Trump Bibles to be in classrooms. You should have no fucking place in schools. They're supposed to be secular, dumbass. God, why are there such stupid bastards in such high office? Anyway. Another discussion, this is a political discussion. Is the fear and pearl clutching about the second Trump administration warranted, or are those fears overblown? Trump has put up some controversial nominations to be part of his new administration. Fox News weekend host Pete Hegseth to run the military as the Secretary of Defense. Tulsi Gabbard, who has been accused of being a national intelligence risk because of her cozy ties with Russia, to become Director of National Intelligence. Matt Gaetz, who has been investigated for alleged sexual misconduct with a minor, to run the Department of Justice as Attorney General. Trump has also called for FBI investigations to be waived and for Congress to recess so these nominations can go through without Senate confirmations. It's unclear if Senator Thune, the new Senate leader and former McConnell deputy, will follow Trump's wishes or demand for state or Senate confirmations. The worry and fear has already begun on what a second Trump term may entail. Will Trump's new FBI, headed likely by Kash Patel, go after Trump's real and imagined political foes, Biden, Garland, Judge Merchan, Judge Chutkan, New York Attorney General James, New York City Defense Attorney Bragg, or District Attorney, I guess it would be actually, Stormy Daniels, Michael Cohen, Fulton County DA Willis, Special Counsel Jack Smith, now Senator Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, and on and on. Will Trump or the people he appoints to these departments just banish all departments he doesn't like, starting with the Department of Education? Will he just let go of hundreds of thousands of civil servants working for these various departments? Will Trump just bungle future elections like they do in places like Hungary and Russia, serving indefinitely or until his life comes to a natural end? Will we ever have free and fair elections that can be trusted again? How much of what is said about what Trump can and will do is real and how much is imagined? How reversible is the damage that may be done by a second Trump term? What's the worst it can get? And replies, those who read history books are worrying. Those who think Trump was good for the economy are not. As someone who has studied American politics, world history, and reads the news from a variety of sources, including conservative ones, I am worried. My hope is that Trump fires people rapidly like his last term and continues to be an inept idiot. But if his administration is more effective, the results could be devastating. What indications do we have based on his campaign promises that he's good for the economy? Tariffs, mass Fed firings, repealing the ACA, tax increase for those making $75,000 is set to kick in, I think, from his last tax plan. Nothing, he said, he'd do would be good for the economy. Can anyone explain why or how they think it'll improve under him? There's absolutely nothing in any of his stated ideas that seem good for the economy. Those who believe he's good for the economy base this idea pretty much entirely on some combination of things. The economy was good in most of his last term, therefore he's good for the economy. He's a supposedly successful businessman, therefore he's good for the economy. I think government regulation and oversight is bad for the economy, and he says he wants to get rid of it. None of these sentences make much sense under the slightest degree of scrutiny, but most of the people who would say them don't have the background or interest to understand why either. Yes, I agree. Critical thinking skills are a rarity these days, it seems. Most people substitute a complicated question with an incredibly simple one, use that answer for the original question, and call it a day. I'm beginning to think that in most of the population, critical thinking skills are non existent. I think people are voting on emotional thinking skills, which is very poor way to vote. Absolutely. I wouldn't even give them that much credit. I think they voted on name recognition. Trump's been around a gazillion years and people new to voting picked the one they heard of. Yeah, yeah, I can agree with that too. None of Trump's platform makes any sense under any scrutiny whatsoever. That's what makes his whole movement so baffling. But yeah, I'll be posting this discussion in the description box, so we'll let you read the rest of it. Alright, from the Bulwark. Merrick Garland must release Jack Smith's final report. The special counsel has just over 2 months to wrap up his work. Special counsel Jack Smith is closing up shop and with a final task ahead of him: the drafting and filing of reports to outgoing Attorney General Merrick Garland on his investigations and indictments of Donald J. Trump. One of the Smith's 2 cases is still pending in Washington, D.C., the one relating to Trump's role in the attempt to overthrow the 2020 election, including by instigating the January 6th insurrection. The judge and the parties are in the midst of sorting out how to deal with the Supreme Court's immunity ruling in Trump versus the U.S. Yeah. Let's see. This one is from Irish Times. If Democrats want to win the next U.S. election, they should listen to Bernie Sanders. Not as bad as the Republicans failed as a strategy. Next time, Democrats should run someone from the party's insurgent progressive wing. I've said this over and over and over. I cannot agree more. Go left. Trying to go right, stupid. From the AP, Trump names fossil fuel executive Chris Wright as the energy secretary. Liberty Energy. He was CEO of. Yay. From Salon, people are scared. Activists brace for unprecedented assault on human rights under Trump. Trump's win sparked fear and anxiety. Progressive advocates are preparing to fight back. In the week since President-elect Donald Trump's victory, the transgender rights organization Advocates for Trans Equality has seen an uptick in the number of community members reaching out in search of resources. People are scrambling to figure out what they should do next and what they should focus on in order to protect themselves from what they worry will be an inevitable infringement on their freedoms. People are also scared. Ash Lazarus Orr said in a phone interview, there is a lot of anxiety and apprehension about what a second Trump presidency would bring. We have been through this before. We are unfortunately going to be going through it again. Except he's got more freedom to do whatever the fuck he wants. That's what's so fucking stupid. From the AP, Democratic Representative Jared Godin wins through Maine's ranked choice voting. So apparently the election was so close They had to go to the next level, ranked choice voting, and Jared Golden wins. It okay, I guess it was still for a representative. Thank goodness. From the Independent, ACLU warns new House bill would give Trump dangerous tool to stifle free speech and target political enemies. Civil rights groups worry the House is about to give the incoming president carte blanche to go after opponents. U.S. House of Representatives is considering a bill that critics say would allow President-elect Donald Trump to go after his political enemies and tax-exempt organizations, including news outlets, universities, and civil society groups. You know, stuff he shouldn't bother with? But he's such a pissant sumbitch, he'll try to go after them. If enacted, H.R. 9495 would give the incoming president and the Secretary of the Treasury the ability to investigate tax-exempt organizations based on an accusation of wrongdoing. The bill was introduced in September by 3 Republican members and 1 Democrat. The legislators allege a large portion of support for terrorist organizations in the wake of Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel has been funded by tax-exempt organizations, citing reports of material support going to designated terrorist groups. Let me guess, Democrats probably Richie Torres, that sack of garbage? Do they say he's so fucking far up fucking apex ass, I wouldn't doubt it. I don't see mention, but yeah, I wouldn't fucking doubt it if it was Torres, that piece of garbage. This from Technology Networks. California's mountain lions are becoming nocturnal to avoid human activity. Mountain lions in Los Angeles are more nocturnal to avoid humans, highlighting their adaptability. So yeah, they're starting to get out more and more often as the day gets later so they can hunt in the dark. Yeah, they want to avoid cyclists, hikers, joggers, and other recreationists. According to a study from University of California, Davis, Cal Poly Pomona, and the National Park Service. So, interesting stuff there. Just a beautiful picture. I thought we could get something to look at. The Beaver Moon over eastern Colorado, as it actually is. Well, it was a few hours ago. But it's just a pretty picture of the moon in that bright yellowish as it cast over the snowy lands in Colorado. From Drexel News, Drexel University, Drexel News. Children exposed to anti-seizure meds during pregnancy face neurodevelopmental risk, a Drexel study finds. Children born to mothers who take anti-seizure medications to manage seizures and psychiatric conditions during pregnancy may face increased risks of neurodevelopmental conditions, according to new data from researchers at Drexel's Dorns Life School for Public Health. So, interesting topic there. In file news, English file news in Cyprus. Greece is in talks with Israel over 2 billion euro Iron Dome, according to Reuters. Greece is negotiating with Israel to develop a 2 billion euro, 2.11 billion US dollar anti-aircraft and missile defense system similar to Israel's Iron Dome, Greek defense officials said Thursday. Isn't Greece struggling economically? Greece? Okay. Sure. As planned, multi-layer defense system would be capable of intercepting short and long-range missiles and drones. The project is part of Greece's 12.8 billion euro military modernization plan through 2035, which includes acquiring up to 40 F-35 fighter jets and drones from the U.S., along with Belara frigates and Rafale jets from France. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Okay, sure. From The Economist, Kremlin-occupied Ukraine is now a totalitarian hell. The Trump administration should remember Vladimir Putin's dark vision. On a Google Street View, it is possible to drive around parts of towns that have been occupied by Russia and Ukraine since the invasion in February of 2022. To do so is to drive back in time. The images were taken before the assault. Since then, many buildings have been destroyed, some streets have new names, and the clocks have changed. The area runs on Moscow time, an hour ahead of the rest of Ukraine. Honestly, Ukraine should be forced to give up the region, or not Ukraine, Russia should be forced to give up the region back to Ukraine. Give Crimea back to Ukraine. Because all I'm seeing out of Russia is aggression. They're not reclaiming their own. Fuck you if you believe that stupidity. From Reuters, the G7 confirms pledge to impose severe costs on Russia for the Ukraine war. Please, by all means, do. From The Guardian, UN warns of economic carnage of G20 if G20 leaders cannot agree on climate finance for poor countries. Wealthy nations are yet to offer the hundreds of billions of dollars that economists say are needed to help the developing world cut emissions. Of course! They're greedy cocksuckers. What do you expect? From Al Jazeera, Super Typhoon Manyee makes landfall in the Philippines. The Philippines has ordered an evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people and canceled dozens of flights. If you're all not aware, typhoons are the same as hurricanes. It's just different ocean, so it's a different name. They can hit California, they're called typhoons because it's in the Pacific Ocean. In the Atlantic, they're hurricanes. Anyway, yeah, let's watch some videos. Enraged MAGA dropped the N-word today during a Michigan Senate committee hearing over a bill proposed to ban firearms from the state capitol, punishable by a $100 fine. So he's bitching because they're doing what they can to protect the workers in the Capitol, and he's being a little whiny bitch, as is typical of MAGA members.
Targets. Let's be very clear. This is legislation that targets white people. It is racial because the people who carry in the Capitol are primarily white. People who have CPLs are primarily white. And this is retaliation for the only demographic that overwhelmingly voted to support Donald Trump. And that is why it is being taken out on us, because you don't like us. And that's how it is. If we want to address gun violence, we would be focusing on the people who bring guns into communities and shoot people, like where I live in Detroit and where you represent, Stephanie Chang, which are overwhelmingly 13 to 34-year-old sub-Saharan African niggers. Those are the people who...
Move on.
I am testifying.
Thank you for your testimony. Yep, and
Thank you for kicking him out. That racist ass should never get the right to speak in front of government again. Fuck cocksuckers like that. Stupid ass cunt motherfucker. Now, this video, Israeli soldiers in Portugal lose their shit when they see keffiyehs and Palestinian flags. Of course, because these Israeli Zionists are racist shitbags.
Israel will continue to fuck all of you. Fuck all of you. All of you. All of you terrorists, sons of terrorists. And fuck you. We don't fuck everyone. There is no Palestine. You idiot.
Yes, it is.
There is Palestine. There is no Israel.
Palestine, you idiot.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
All of you idiots. Go to Palestine. Go to Palestine.
Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Fuck you and we'll fuck all of you, you motherfucker.
Free Palestine! 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 Free Palestine!
All the time, I'm Israel, fucking all Palestine. You are touching so much Palestine. Fuck you and fuck Israel.
Yeah, but you still be a fucker in photo. Still fucking photo. Food keffiyeh, go to Palestine. They will
Stay
fuck
5
all
minutes
of
in
you.
Palestine. Let's see who should stay live. You fucking, you can talk from Portugal.
I have a country. I have a country.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! You love me so beautiful! You love me so.
These Zionist bastards, they're murderous, genocidal monsters. And why people back them is bullshit. It is all bullshit. Okay, this is a short clip from Mehdi Hassan, why Trump's victory was no landslide. Yes, he won. He won both houses of Congress, but it was not a landslide. It was not a mandate. It was a win. Period. But of course, delusional as his MAGA supporters are, they claim this bullshit. Why Trump's victory was no landslide. Trump's margin of victory in the Electoral College ranked 44th out of the 60 presidential elections in American history. His popular vote margin puts him in 50th place. Yeah. Mediasan breaks down why, despite all the headlines, President-elect Trump's 2024 election victory over Kamala Harris was hardly a landslide.
By now, you've probably heard a lot of people say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election in a landslide victory.
President-elect Donald Trump was elected in a landslide.
This is a clean sweep.
Massive landslide victory.
President-elect Donald Trump's landslide re-election win.
Massive landslide.
But what if I told you it wasn't actually a landslide? Because number one, Trump did secure 312 electoral college votes, comfortably landing himself back in the White House. But while he secured far more than the 270 needed to win, he got fewer electoral college votes than Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012, and Trump's margin of victory in the Electoral College ranked 44th out of the 60 presidential elections that we've had in the history of this country. 44th. You want to know what an actual Electoral College landslide looks like? Ronald Reagan, 1984, 525 Electoral College votes.
That
Number two,
is a landslide.
if Harris had picked up just over 120,000 extra votes, 120,000, that's it, across the three blue wall swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, she would have won the Electoral College and therefore the election. So not really a landslide then, as even people like me wrongly assume on election night. Hey, but what about the popular vote? Well, number three, as of today, Trump has won around 50% of the vote, leaving Harris with 48%, with just over 1 million ballots still being counted in California alone. Trump's margin of victory is expected to dip from just over 2% to around 1.5%. How is a 1.5 percentage point margin of victory a massive landslide win?
Exactly.
Hillary Clinton had a bigger margin than that in the popular vote in 2016, and she lost. Joe Biden got more votes in 2020 than Donald Trump got this year, despite a bigger electorate. In fact, a 1.5 percentage point margin of victory would put Trump at number 50 out of the 55 US presidential elections in which the popular vote winner actually became president. 50 out of 55. You want to know what a popular vote landslide actually looks like? Lyndon B. Johnson, 1964, a whopping 61% of the popular vote and a 22 percentage point margin
to
of victory.
Lyndon B. Johnson in
that's
that
what
year.
a landslide looks like, not this. Look, to be clear, Trump won fair and square, and perhaps
Trump's
against the odds.
win, yeah. He
But
won
please, let's
both
not blame
houses
him on
of Congress
Trump
and the
again.
presidency.
He didn't win a landslide.
No mandate.
He doesn't have a
no
huge
landslide.
electoral mandate, and
It
this
was
is
just
still
a win.
Basically, a very divided 50-50 country.
So, yeah. This one's titled just I Told You So. I think it's supposed to be Francesca Albanese talking about Gaza. We had a video of her yesterday, so.
What do you make of the recent announcement by the IDF that they will not allow anyone to return to northern Gaza after everything else that we have witnessed?
My answer is, I told you on the 14th of October 2023, I issued a statement when Israel issued a mass evacuation order, which is a monstrosity in and of itself. It cannot be legal under any circumstances, because you need to ensure safety, shelter, food, access to medical assistance to people you evacuate. It is to be for a purpose, for military necessity, for a short period of time. What Israel has done has kicked out 1.1 million people out of their homes, including elderly, persons with disabilities, pregnant women, while they were being bombed. And they've been sent to places which were being bombed. This is all documented, not just by me, but forensic experts, the United Nations, Israeli lawyers themselves. And 22 hospitals have been part of this evacuation. Now, whomever didn't leave was considered a terrorist affiliate, as an associate. So, but I said, 1 or 2 days after, I said, this is going to be the largest mass evacuation of Palestinians since the Nakba. And so it was, because I'm a scholar. My scholarship has been on forced displacement of the Palestinians. So I know that Israel, under the fog of war, takes the opportunity to forcibly displace the Palestinians in order to take the land. And they've said it, and they've done it.
Yep. Israel's destruction of Al-Shifa 1 year since the siege of Gaza's largest hospital.
Babies without incubators, huddled in blankets for warmth.
Yeah.
What parents call a war on children. These images shocked the world last year when Israel's siege of Al-Shifa hospital began. This is what Gaza's largest hospital looked like. Originally built in 1946 during the British rule, it had survived multiple wars and Israeli attacks. Israel has now ripped apart what medics used to call Gaza's beating heart. When World Health Organization finally reached the hospital, it found an empty shell, shallow graves, and a stench of rotting bodies. Horrifying details of what happened to 700 patients, 400 health workers, and 3,000 displaced people.
Look at Israel and see the genocide they're
Soldiers
committing.
posted videos around Al-Shifa of them firing without any resistance.
It's as clear as a
Since then,
fucking bell.
they've reduced almost all hospitals in Gaza and effectively the healthcare system to ashes.
Concrete intelligence.
Israel's military propaganda published videos to show the hospital as an alleged Hamas command center.
But there's still
These
so
videos
many
were quickly debunked by
stupid
Palestinians
asses
and even
who
journalists
take
taken
the
there by the
bullshit
Israeli army.
hook, line, and
More doubt
sinker.
on who placed and arranged what Israeli military has presented as evidence. This is what the military video showed before selected journalists were taken on tour.
There is an AK-47.
The number of guns in the MRI room increased, and they can be seen as being arranged differently. The Israeli army also deleted an earlier post which admitted it sees ambulances and hospitals as, quote, legitimate targets. Dozens of patients were killed at Al-Shifa hospital. Israeli forces not only ransacked and destroyed the hospital, but also abducted doctors, nurses, and anyone who broke the information blackout about atrocities. This is Dr. Adnan al-Borsh, who continued to tell the world what the Israeli army was doing. He refused Israeli orders to move south and instead went to assist at the Indonesian hospital after the destruction of Al-Shifa. Described by his wife as a light over life, the famous surgeon was kidnapped. His family seeks justice for his torture and killing under Israeli custody.
وفي قطاع غزة عموما كانت أجواء حزينة جدا.
Al Jazeera's 27-year-old correspondent Ismail Al-Ghul was also killed. He too refused to heed Israeli forces' threats and continued to inform the world about what was happening at Al-Shifa hospital. 14 months on, Israel's siege, bombardment and killing has only intensified. And the sprawling Shifa complex of buildings and courtyards is unrecognizable.
This is what used to be the emergency department, and as you can see, it's totally destroyed.
Doctors say Israel's strategy was to eliminate it from existence, but the echo of defiance from Gaza's iconic hospital is still alive, as hundreds of medics from all over the world continue to remember and demand justice for their colleagues. Osama bin Javed, Al Jazeera.
Yeah. Fuck Netanyahu. Fuck Biden. Fuck Blinken. And I know Kamala and Trump not gonna be any better. So fuck both those motherfuckers too. I'm so sick and tired of knowing my country is given weapons to help commit a fucking genocide. Journalist Andriy X discusses how the Israeli settlement Rotem, known for its eco-friendly image, is actively advancing, along with the IDF and Israeli police, the ethnic cleansing of nearby Palestinian village of Al-Farsiya.
Minutes after I recorded that video, there was a settler invasion with an ATV. Here's an Israeli flag, and there's another one, and another one, and another one, and right here are Palestinian houses. This is like 10 meters away. You'll find a lot of Palestinian villages in the West Bank that are just surrounded by Israeli flags that have graffitis of the Star of David on houses, and the villagers are afraid of taking them down even when they're on private land because they're afraid of retribution from settlers. This village, Al-Farsiya, is under constant daily pressure from the settlers that live just up on that hill, in a nice, peaceful Israeli settlement called Rotem, which prides itself on being eco-friendly. The outpost is run by a violent settler called Didi Amosi, who has set it as his life's mission to ethnically cleanse Farsiya to further the colonization of the West Bank. Farsiya is invaded by settlers on a daily basis. A while ago they had their solar panels smashed and their car burned down. People have been attacked, property has been stolen, and the Israeli occupation forces and the police are actively participating in this pressure on the village. The villagers are afraid that the flags on their property are the beginning of a new outpost. And if an outpost is built this close to Farsiya, then it's very likely that Farsiya will no longer exist in just a few weeks. The Israeli occupation forces and the police are actively participating.
Again, it baffles me why people can't see the truth in this genocide, this ethnic cleansing. Update: jury finds Denver police officer guilty after he struck a handcuffed 17-year-old boy inside a police cruiser. So yeah, let's watch this.
You're running your mouth now.
What? You want to step outside?
You're running your mouth now.
Let's go.
You're running your mouth now, bitch. Are you? Are you, bitch? What's up? You got something to say? You got something to say, motherfucker? Yeah, that's what I fucking thought. Shut your dumb ass up.
A Denver police officer charged today with harassment for allegedly hitting a juvenile in custody after an arrest. This happened November 3rd. The department says Officer Dat Trong was placed on desk duty 3 days later, will remain there until the investigation is complete. He's been with the department for 10 years.
This is why so many people are like, ACAB, motherfucker. All cops are fucking bastards. I guess that would be technically ACAFB, but there's a serious issue of being an asshole when some of these people become cops, and they should never be allowed in that kind of position of power. Here's another video. Sheriff's deputy fired and charged after killing 7 dogs during an animal welfare check, which the veterinary paperwork weeks earlier gave the dogs a clean bill of health. So there should have been nothing wrong with them. Should have been no reason to fucking kill the dogs either. It's a welfare check. It isn't an execution call, dumbass.
Former McNairy County Sheriff's deputy in West Tennessee is charged with animal cruelty tonight, accused of killing 7 dogs while responding to a call. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation says on November 4th, Connor Bracken responded to a call requesting to check on some dogs at a home in Bethel Springs, Tennessee. That's about 2 hours due east of Memphis. Officials say that once at the scene, Bracken began shooting at the dogs, killing 7 of them. Days later, a warrant was issued for his arrest. Bracken turned himself in. He is currently out on bond.
Why? Why is there so much evil fuckery in this fucking world? To proselytize in Jerusalem. These are people proselytizing Christianity in Jerusalem, the big city in Israel. So I guess being an asshole from an early age is part of Judaism. You win yourself no fans by being this way.
Let us leave.
What inside people?
Let us leave.
What inside people?
Let's go. Let's walk.
We got you on film. Oh, we got you on film. We got you saying nothing to the children.
We're leaving, and you're following us.
Very good. Very good.
Fucking hell. This is a video of Israelis pouring cement on water springs in the West Bank town of Hebron. It is a common occurrence along with uprooting olive trees, burning farms, poisoning water wells, and demolition of Palestinian homes. So yeah.
اللي صار احنا هذه ارضنا متواجدين عليها وورثها عن جدنا الى مئات السنين. ما وجدنا الا الجيش الاحتلال الاسرائيلي جاي تنظيمه الجيش والجرافات والخلاطات بسكروا عندنا ابعاد مي كنا مستفيدين منها، زارعين ارض حوالي 80 دونم. عندنا مناطق بلاستيكيه مزروعه خيار بندوره عده خضره وزراعه خارجيه وتعيين حوالي كميه كبيره من هذه العائلات. فاحنا في شح الحين احنا ينظل شح في المي وزرعتنا كلها بتخرب كل شيء وما في دخل ما في ولا شيء. وبنطالب احنا سلطتنا الوطنيه بمساعدتنا في هذه المناطق اللي هي مسماها سي قريبه على الشارع الالتفافي، واحنا محرومين من اي نوع من المساعدات في هذا الموضوع.
Hold on. Let me go back over here and turn the sound off on you. Anyway, this is a video. Jeffrey Sachs on why the U.S. invaded Iraq and more.
Dark son of a sorry to tell you. Because he's gotten us into endless wars. Why did the U.S. invade Iraq in 2003?
Yep.
Where did that war come from? You know what? It's quite surprising. That war came from Netanyahu, actually.
If you take out Saddam, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region.
Netanyahu had, from 1995 onward, the theory toppling the governments of Iraq, Syria, and Iran. And the guy's nothing if not obsessive. And he's still trying to get us to fight Iran this day, this week. He's a deep, dark son of a sorry to tell you. Because he's gotten us into endless wars, and because of the power of all of this in the U.S. politics,
yeah, he got us into the Iraq
but that war was totally phony.
He wanted us in Syria. And of course he wanted us to attack Iran, which Iran is probably the one that's still standing the strongest. Fuck Netanyahu, man. But people are like, hey, he's a good person. Go fuck yourself. Locked post, so... post is gone, it looks like. That sucks ass. Alright. Photographer captures the moment a building in Beirut stronghold hit with an Israeli airstrike. Now remember, they're also attacking Lebanon just because they want the fucking land. Fuck Israel. Representative Jamal Bowman offered to campaign for Harris in Michigan, leveraging his pro-Palestine stance. Instead, Bill Clinton and AIPAC ally Richie Torres were chosen. Clinton defended Israel's actions and downplayed the genocide, while Richie Torres, that son of a fucking sack of garbage, boasted that the DNC blocked a Palestinian American speaker. Fuck you, Torres. I won't play it because this video's already gone so freaking long at this point. I'll put it in the description box below the video, though. Final one. Despite himself, General Smedley Butler busts a plot to overthrow Franklin Roosevelt. And this video is a short from The Corporation, 2003. But I'm not going to play it either because, like I said, this video's went so freaking long. But we'll end this episode there. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting links and sources in the description box below the video, as I always do. Thank you all for watching. See you all in the next one. Until then, later.